nothing out there. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And I want to tell you a story. I was lost in wanderlust for most of my 20s, and I slowly have come to realize throughout my 30s that there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there in the external world really worth finding. And I think that travel, it gets sold to us as this way to discover ourselves and to explore the world and go on adventures. And it's a misnomer. It's false advertising. There's nothing out there. I would know. I just got back actually from Hawaii, what may be considered the most beautiful and blessed place on earth. A tropical paradise full of beautiful people, amazing communities, amazing land that can grow anything. And ultimately, I realized that that's not what's important. External things are not what's important to me. What matters to me is what's going on inside my spiritual life and my internal world. And it's ironic that I'm saying this now because I'm about to go on a 3.5 week train journey with Amtrak. But the reason I'm doing that is because my mom passed away last week. And I want to go back to North Carolina, where I'm from, and give a proper memorial and spread her ashes over a lake. This is an excuse to travel. But most of the time, I don't feel like there's really much excuse. It's a constant desire to be on a conquest. I think it's the same yearning that explorers like Captain Cook must have felt going to Alaska and Hawaii and all these far off places. We're always in search of a new frontier. But the thing is, as humans, we've already spoken for all the land. Everything, every acre is accounted for. There's really nowhere else to go. And so, slowly, as I continue to realize there is nowhere to go. Stop traveling. There's no reason to. And it's kind of sad, in a way, a little bit depressing to give up on the world. But it also feels like a huge relief. Knowing that it's not worth it. All the sacrifice, costs of traveling, they just aren't worth it. And maybe, I'm coming from a place of privilege myself. I grew up in North Carolina to a middle class family and was able to pull off building my own house during the pandemic. And I've even built my own little meditation dome where I can go inside for long periods of time. And having that space externally does help my internal world. And the meditation retreats I've gone on, they have helped me so much focus on my internal world. But if it's not geared around helping your internal world, there's really not much reason to travel. And I've just slowly come to be at peace with that. I'm at peace now with not having to go down every road. I don't need to go to every country before I die. There's no reason. For me now to go somewhere, there has to be a reason. And I'm slowly caring more about, having a family, settling down. Having my mom pass has made me realize just what a beautiful gift that she gave me to be able to experience this life. And I want to give that to someone else. Have them live out all the experience that they'll have. Even though it's a scary world that we're heading into. It's a scary world governed by artificial intelligence and world leaders who have their own interest before others. It's challenging to face the world right now, in a way. America is burning to the ground, quite literally on the West Coast, and soon to be almost everywhere. The climate is collapsing. It's almost as if by us exploiting the external world for so many years, finally it's coming back on us, and we're being forced to go internal. We're going to face more food shortages, so we'll have to get better at fasting, and this will force us more into our internal world. It's a bleak tomorrow that we're looking at. But if you remain strong, if you remain equanimous, and equanimous just means a level of okayness with allowing whatever's going to happen to be. If two armies, fueled by artificial intelligence, send bombs at each other and end up destroying half the planet, can that be okay? I think there's a big part of me that wants to see the world now before it devolves into chaos any further than it already has. I think that's one of my main motivators to travel these days. The more I visit all these major cities, the more depressed I get. Because I see them all going in the wrong direction. People relying more and more on technology, turning away from each other more and more, getting more and more anxiety about in-person relationships. People starting to see each other more as an enemy. People used to be, it felt like, were much more eager to host friends and strangers alike on their couch while you're passing through traveling. Now platforms like Couchsurfing have really fallen off, and people are more anxious about new connections now. And I think that's part of the reason why there's nothing out there. People don't want you to come. And maybe that toxic way of being a tourist was never sustainable in the first place. How places can just get overrun, like Bali, Indonesia, just get completely ransacked and ruined and trashed. And when the pandemic came and everything came to a halt, there was reprieve. There was a time where we stopped traveling and focused more on our internal world. And I would venture to say that we gained a lot of benefit from that. Traveling is not all it's cracked up to be. It's alluring, it's exciting at first, but the luster wears off quickly and we get tired. I know after about a month I hit a wall. Every time I go traveling for a month, I'm just ready to be in stasis, have everything be still and quiet. It's part of the reason why I chose to live in such a quiet, wild location. I don't trust the world. That's why I don't like traveling that much anymore. I'm not as interested. Trying new foods, meeting new people. These are nice things, but I'm not sure it's worth the cost anymore. As things continue to escalate and get out of hand with inflation and housing goes way and way up and more, and people have less and less to spend, they will be traveling less and less. It's already happening right now. People are just traveling less and less. And there is this void within me that I think I fill with traveling, and now that I maybe don't have the means that I once did to do that, it's not as appealing. And it is hard because traveling distracts us. We can get so easily preoccupied with logistics, but ultimately it's a distraction, because what do you really care about in this life? You care about your spirit and leaving the world a better place. And does travel do that? It depends. If you're traveling in the right way, it can lead to better things. But for most people, the way they travel, being a tourist, just going to ride in the roller coasters out in Busch Gardens and going to Disneyland or going to Japan and gawking at, whatever strange culture is going on over there. And it's just not involved. It's not a part of what's really happening. It's just bread and circus. It's just a theater. To me, the best part of traveling is reflection. That's why I like taking the train so much, because you can just sit there and look at the scenery and reflect on your life, where you've been and where you want to go, where you're going now. It can make so much more sense. But if we ignore it, if we're just focused on getting our next cup of coffee and listening to music and distracting ourselves, it doesn't really serve us. You got to be aware of that there's nothing out there. The journey is within, and it's always happening. Each moment is a moment of awareness that you can go and latch onto and bring back in. And the more you do that, the more you enjoy your life anyway. The less you need. And I think at the end of the day, it's more about how we can be satisfied with less rather than how we can make more money to go consume more. Because that cycle of craving is endless. You can always say, I wanna go to this place and that place and this place and that place, and there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there. It's better most of the time just to stay home. But being as it is, family is important, and it's a beautiful thing to go honor the one that raised you back in the place where you grew up. I'm going out on the trip tonight, taking the Amtrak, doing the rail pass. It was on sale for $300, and my mom was passing, and it just made sense. And it's been hard. She loved to travel. She loved to travel and see the beauty in the world. Towards the end, she never traveled anymore. And I could tell it made her quite sad, and she gave up driving there and then just stayed home most of the last 7 years or so. And I think there is a part of travel that keeps us alive, engaged, but I like to do it just enough to remain engaged and excited in this world. They say you should always be planning a trip, but never actually going on one. And I like that, because that way you kind of live out a lot of the dopamine and excitement, but you don't have to go through the practical schlepping of your body from one city to another. It's much more practical. So, yeah, just reflecting on travel in your life. What is it that you want to get out of any travel? I got a lot out of going to Hawaii. I thought that it was an amazing place to visit, and I got to see 3 islands while I was out there and how different they were. And maybe I do want to end up out there one day. And I definitely always earmark the places I travel as places I might want to move to. But for me right now, I think there's a voice inside me that says, can this be enough? Can you be satisfied with what you have? And it's a beautiful voice. A very peaceful voice that knows that you don't need to travel. There's nowhere to go. Just sit there and meditate, and everything will be done. And it's a very wise voice that I like to listen to, and I hope that you might too. Thanks for spending time with me. I'm Daniel Sage, a poet. You can get a custom poem from me down below. Do something under the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.